thanks for joining me today on the Leukopak Lady. In the last episode, I talked about donor eligibility, suitability, and qualification for allogeneic cell therapy. Today, I want to address a question that comes up as allo developers are building their donor strategy and preparing their IND application. Do we have to test for this? This question comes up a lot when thinking about donor health variables, infectious disease markers, and especially with latent viruses. Some developers will tell their collection center partners, the FDA told us we must test for this, while others will say about the exact same testing, the FDA never asked for that. This seems inconsistent and it makes things complicated for collectors when it comes to finding and retaining qualified donors for different therapy programs. Some screening and testing is required by the FDA for all cell therapy product donors. These results are used for eligibility and suitability determinations. They include vital signs like temperature, blood pressure, heart rate, and hematocrit or hemoglobin. It also includes screening and testing for transmissible infections such as HIV, HTLV, hepatitis viruses, West Nile viruses, syphilis, and may include other relevant emerging infections. Not only does the FDA mandate testing for these infections, but specifies what kind of testing must be performed, such as antibody or nucleic acid, and what testing platforms are acceptable. Any other screening or testing is program-specific and not necessarily mandated by the FDA until it appears in your effective IND. This is where developers decide whether additional donor tests, donor attributes, or exclusion criteria are relevant to the therapy, the manufacturing process, or recipient safety. Screening for age, health, and lifestyle are among the most typical non-FDA criteria used in donor qualification. This includes asking questions about things like chronic inflammation, smoking, diet, sleep habits, or drug and alcohol consumption. It's important for developers to correlate these factors with manufacturing and potential clinical outcomes to avoid unnecessarily excluding donors or including criteria in the IND that does not impact the therapy. Testing for latent virus reactivation is becoming more common for developers to include in their IND applications. This is one I have serious questions about myself. Human herpes viruses are nearly 100% ubiquitous in the population, so finding donors who have never experienced these infections will be impossible. Also, viruses like EBV, CMV, and HSV are restricted to certain cell types. EBV primarily infects B cells. CMV primarily infects epithelial cells, hematopoietic stem cells, and monocytes. HSVs primarily infect epithelial cells and neurons. In addition, these viruses can reactivate at any time for reasons as simple as stress, sun exposure, or routine hormonal shifts. They may even become reactivated in response to stimulation during therapy manufacturing. In my experience, donors have randomly positive and negative results for these viruses at any given time, and this makes it a nightmare to qualify donors for collections on the schedule. So for T or NK cell-based therapies, testing strategies should be tied to a clear risk hypothesis for the therapy, cell type, and patient population. A need is emerging for testing donor cells for basic immune cell phenotypes and functions relevant to manufacturing and clinical performance. These include assays such as flow cytometry to assess a detailed list of surface markers like CD4, CD8, memory cell activation and exhaustion. This helps identify donors with the right cell populations in the right amounts to promote manufacturing success. Performance assays such as proliferation, viral uptake, target killing, and overall vitality can separate donors by weak and robust immune functions. By eliminating donors with weak immune performance, programs can reduce manufacturing risk. Including donor qualification criteria beyond what the FDA requires is important, but should be approached with caution. When you add criteria to your IND without understanding the consequences, you create additional burden on your program and the collection centers recruiting donors. When you add criteria to your IND, you turn it into an FDA-mandated requirement. The FDA will allow you to perform the testing you say is needed and gather the data you say is relevant, but they will also hold you to it. Once the IND is effective, you will be required to perform the testing and gather the data you proposed. What you propose to perform on donors should contribute to the success of your therapy. Therefore, all criteria and tests should be intentional and justified. Questions you can ask yourself to determine whether you should include criteria in testing are: what is the therapeutic cell type and how is it affected by latent virus, surface marker expression, and processing steps? What cellular functions must be strong and robust for the cells to be manufactured into a therapy and function in patients? What environmental, health, and lifestyle attributes contribute to the function and health of the therapeutic cell type? What patient populations will be treated and how will the chosen criteria affect their treatment? What risks are we trying to reduce? Donor data should support a decision, so what decision, control, or risk management plan is affected? If the answer is nothing, it does not belong in the IND strategy. So when developers ask, do we have to test for this? The better question is this test required, relevant, or self-imposed? Required testing must be done. Relevant testing should be justified by the therapy process or recipient risk. Self-imposed testing should be questioned before it becomes an unnecessary constraint. The strongest donor strategy is the one where every test criteria and exclusion has a reason. Join me for the next episodes where I talk about the collection as an essential upstream manufacturing step. See you then.